Welcome to the Construction Disruption Podcast, where we uncover the future of design, building, and remodeling.
I'm Todd Miller of Isaiah Industries, manufacturer of specialty metal roofing and other building materials. Today, my co-host is Mr. Ryan Bell. Ryan, how you doing today?
Hey, Todd, I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing well also. So I'm curious, have you read any good books lately?
Actually, I'm glad you asked. I have. I've been reading this book on anti-gravity, and it's just so good I can't even put it down.
Can't put it down. Okay, that's a good one.
Yep.
That's a good one.
Pretty bad.
I have a question for you.
Okay, what is it?
Where do pirates buy their hooks?
Oh, I've heard this one before. I don't know.
At the secondhand store.
I should have gotten that one.
Right. But wait, they get worse. I have another one for you.
Oh, good.
Don't sound so thrilled. What do you call a song about a tortilla?
I don't know.
It's a rap song.
Oh, that's good.
Mm.
That's a good one.
You got anything else fun for us to throw into the mix here today?
I don't think so. I'm ready to get into this episode.
Well, let's do it. I'm excited about this episode. It's going to be a good one. So one of the things that, I think by the way, we are doing challenge words. So each of us does have a secret word to work into the conversation somewhat surreptitiously. Is that a word? I think it is. It's not a challenge word. Anyway, we do each have a challenge word to work into the conversation. So you, our audience, can be listening for our challenge words, and we'll see what happens. We'll let you know at the end whether we worked them in or not. But one of the things that I wanted to start out today is, this idea of what is it that makes a business stand out from their competition? And I think a lot of times businesses kind of start out and they talk all about the product or service they provide. But the reality is it's the impact they have on the customer, that sort of human touch, that very personal thing. What is that impact on the customer that is usually remembered and talked about by that client long after the sale is complete, and going to be talked about much more than the actual physical product or service that company provided. So today, I'm excited. Our guest is Katie Smith. Katie is known as the Queen of the Customer Journey. She is a visionary marketer dedicated to transforming chaos and stagnation into strategic success. Katie is a fractional chief marketing officer, or CMO, and she helps her clients drive sustainable growth while invigorating their marketing games and leading them to new heights of success. Based in Livingston, Montana, one of our favorite places, we have a team member there. Katie's business is called Wildpath Consulting. Katie, welcome to Construction Disruption. It's a pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here and chat with you both.
Well, very good. Well, thank you again. So I know that you even have some history working specifically in the building materials space, which is very cool. But love to kind of start out with maybe some details on your background and what brought you to where you are today as a consultant in marketing, and also this idea of being a fractional CMO or chief marketing officer.
So I've always made my own path in life. I haven't really taken a traditional role. I spent my 20s as an outdoor guide, learning how to take people into the wilderness, make sure they have a good time, make sure we get where we're going and back safely. And then I fell into marketing because I really love connecting people. I love connecting people with a need, with people who can solve that need. I love communication. And so I really fell into that role. And one of the first places I worked out was a metal manufacturing company, which I fell in love with manufacturing. I mean, come on, how fun is it to build things? And then how do you communicate those needs out to people? That's where I really cut my teeth and learned. And then because I need to make my own way in life, I wanted to experience what that was like in other industries. So I've worked in international nonprofit. I've worked in fintech, just trying to gain as much experience as I can. But I think my heart and my home is manufacturing. So what I found is that people need in those areas, in all areas, we need help communicating. How do you say the right thing at the right time to the right people? And when you are a large company, you can have a chief marketing officer who can provide a lot of leadership, can guide your team through whatever gets thrown at us. And, why can't a smaller company have that same level of leadership, that same level of strategy? And so that's where the fractional comes in, where I'm not beholden to just one company taking up all of my time. A smaller company doesn't need a full-time fractional CMO. So I can come in, I can look at what's going on with their team because I have all this experience to draw from. I can create a really solid path for them moving forward and help guide them through whatever life throws at us. And then I can work with multiple people, which keeps my brain engaged. And really, I like to help those small, medium businesses have a competitive advantage.
I have to imagine that, doing the fractional thing, you get exposure to a lot of different companies, and there has to be some overlap. That has to help you with all of your clients, just having that broader base of things to pull from, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, honestly, we're solving the same problem. The
Mhm.
components are different. And because I've worked with a lot of different companies, I can think outside of the box. I can bring in different solutions, or we come up with different solutions. So that's really one of the most fun parts of it for me. The problems are the same, but the solutions can be wildly tailored to whatever's going on.
Very cool. And there you worked in that wildly word. So, got to ask you, Wildpath Consulting, not exactly a common everyday name by any stretch. What's the story behind that name? And I guess what's more, what do you feel that name means to your clients or means that you bring to your clients?
Yeah, so that really comes from my years of outdoor guiding and this idea that marketing can feel like a wilderness for a lot of people. And I am the guide. I'm the guide through. So one of the activities that I guided was horseback riding in Yellowstone National Park and in the surrounding areas. So I'm in the lead, but I'm never facing forward. I'm always twisted to the side in my saddle so that I'm watching my clients. I'm watching what's happening behind me, making sure everyone's having a good time. But I have one eye looking forward. I know where we're going, but what's in our path? Is there a bear in our path? Is there a moose? Is there a fallen tree? How do we navigate the things that will often push us off our path so we can still get to our destination? Do I need to change the destination based on what's happening in our climate? So taking all of those pieces, that's how I work. That's how I work with my clients. That's how I work in the industries. I've always got one eye looking back, making sure everybody's safe, moving along, one eye coming forward. And then I'm a guide. And so I want to join you on your journey. I want to make it fun, exciting, and just take us along on a wild journey to success.
I love that analogy to being a wilderness guide. Obviously, you've thought about that and it went into the name of your company, but that is a great analogy. I love that. So I'm going to go a little bit off what we had planned to talk about. I'm going to ask you this question. And if this doesn't work out, we'll edit it out. How does that work?
Sounds good.
I'm curious as a guide, and it's interesting. I have a cousin out your way who is a hunting and fishing guide, but I'm kind of curious, ever get in any precarious or scary situations as a wilderness guide?
Yes, there have been a few, mostly involving wildlife. So whenever you see a grizzly bear out, your heart just starts pounding. So I've been out. I prefer to see grizzly bears on horseback because generally they're not too bothered by that and they'll move on and move away. But definitely have been out on horseback tours and come across grizzly bears. I think another one we would go in the wintertime. I'm a Nordic ski guide. And we would go into the park with a company that ran snow coaches over snow vehicles. And, we have various stop offs. So Fountain Paint Pots is one of the best places to visit in Yellowstone. It's beautiful, especially in winter. And the driver and we got there and people were kind of pulling away because there were a bison along the boardwalk. But we kind of decided, let's just see what we can see. So we took our people out, and there were bison, and somewhere on one side of the boardwalk, somewhere on the other, but we felt like there was a good safe gap. So we took our people around, and we saw the bubbling mud and the hot pots and the little geysers. And then the bison just sort of started to come together around us
Wow.
on the boardwalk. And we had to start kind of like dodging bison and moving really closely and get our tourists who didn't understand, I think they don't realize that these are wild animals. And so
Right.
we have to get them from taking pictures without panicking, get them to move in the right way. So that was definitely a little touch and go between the driver and I, but we got out of there, no bison gorings, and I think the people had a good time.
That had to be interesting, though, because they probably are like, wow, what a cool experience. And you're like, this is kind of scary. Let's get out of here. And
Yeah,
how
we
do
were
we
like,
do that safely?
I saw a funny meme the other day that was like a lady standing right in front of a bison trying to take a picture, and it said like it's tourist tossing season or something like that.
I feel like they should do it more than they do.
Yeah.
They let people get away with a lot, but they
Wow.
are wild animals and you should not be close to them at all.
Well, there's all kinds of analogies there, too, because certainly in marketing and business, we run into a grizzly bear now and then. And so that's cool stuff. What about that geyser that exploded recently out in Yellowstone? Tell us your perspective on that.
Biscuit Basin. Well, Biscuit Basin is a really great site to go to, especially in wintertime. The colors were really wonderful, but that it's not the coming of the next volcano. It was just really kind of like a hydraulic buildup of gases. So sometimes that happens throughout the park. Features are changing all the time in the park, which is one of the things that makes it so interesting. So these kinds of things happen often, not generally that big or in such a populated place. But I think it's really great that nobody was hurt,
Yes.
and just kind of makes it a little more exciting and reminds you about just how wild and how cool Yellowstone is. It's definitely, one of my favorite places. Is why I've chosen to live so close to it. Spend a lot of time in Yellowstone, all seasons.
Very neat. Yeah, the footage of that was just incredible. But yes, I'm glad no one was hurt and everyone got away safely. So let's get back on track. I suppose we should. I'm kind of curious to hear your thoughts on what is marketing and specifically any distinctions you call between marketing and another word we use a lot, which is branding.
So I think that's a great thing to start with, because what I think of marketing as encompassing all the ways that we communicate with people. So that's external, internal. It's sort of a broad brush, and there are different categories within that. And then branding, I think of, it's like the foundation and the framing of a house. So, a lot of people say, oh, I just need a logo and maybe a fun tagline, and I'm going to design it in the way that I think is really cool. And you can do that, certainly, but the better a foundation you lay for your business, the more thought that goes into your branding, what it looks like, what it sounds like, what's your tone of voice, who's your customer, the better a foundation you're going to have, the better framing you have, the easier it is to build up your brand down the road. It helps you maintain what you're going to do. It eliminates scope creep. So the branding is really like, what are we? Who are we? And how are we going to communicate that with people? And then the marketing takes that information and it just helps you make decisions. It's easier to say, yes, that fits within our brand. No, that doesn't fit within our brand, rather than always kind of having to decide every time a new marketing thing comes up. Should we do this? This is what's trending. Is this something that we should be worrying about? If you have a really strong brand, if you have a really strong foundation, those decisions become easy. Yes, it fits. No, it doesn't fit. So I think it's important to put some good thought into that. I actually help people go through rebrandings a lot. And I'm really happy when they find me before that happens, because it's really difficult, just like the foundation of a house, to re-engineer that once everything's built up around it.
That is really interesting. I love the way you explain that. So branding almost becomes sort of like a litmus test for a lot of, what your activity and behavior is going to be. Good stuff. Well, I'm kind of curious when you step into a company as a fractional chief marketing officer, what does that mean? I mean, you just stay in one little silo trying to help them with marketing things, or do you end up touching more parts of the business? And how do you interact with your clients? What does that look like? Do you go see them? Is it all done virtually? What are some of the nuts and bolts of it all also?
Yeah. So when I come into a company, there's no silos. Marketing touches all areas of the company because marketing is mostly about listening. You need to listen to your customers. You need to listen to every person in your company has insight into what a customer needs, what a customer issue is, and also insight into how we can solve that. And so I need to be able to talk with the CFO. I need to know what the financials look like, what products are selling well, what products are not selling well. I need their insight. Marketing and sales work so closely together. And in a lot of our industry, it's business to business, B2B, which is sales led. And so marketing needs to be a tool for sales. In this day and age, in this climate that we're in, marketing and sales can no longer be butting heads. We need to be working very closely. We need to not worry so much about attribution. In marketing, we need to know, what are you hearing in sales? What do you wish you had during sales call? What do you wish your clients knew before they got to you? And that's how we can start making decisions. The people who are customer service have so much insight. People on the manufacturing floor, they know timing, they know what promises we can make. They have ideas about how we can make things better. And so my job when I first come in is to listen. I need to find some of that low hanging fruit so that we can get quick wins. I need to build trust, and I need to do a lot of listening. So I don't come in right away with, I do have my ideas in the back of my head, but I come in and listen. It's about building teams. It's about building trust so that we can all work together. And a lot of times people have great ideas and nobody's really listened to them or heard them out. So that's what I do. That first 90 days is, how do I get to know this company? How do I get to know this particular industry very well, very fast? How do I build up the team? And then what's our goal? What are we working towards so that I can start building our strategy based on all of those factors?
So you've used a phrase a couple of times, something like in the environment that we're in today, kind of gives a hint that you feel there's some special challenges or new challenges, new things we're running into. Can you elaborate on that a little bit as far as, some of the perhaps new challenges you do think businesses are facing today and, perhaps even going forward?
Yes. So I think this was happening before COVID, but COVID sped it up. The customer has so much more control of the buying journey than ever before. So with the internet, with everything on the internet, and now it's their preference. So they want to do the research. They want to gather more information before they talk to somebody. And so that really changes how we approach that customer journey. What does it look like? It's so much less linear than it used to be because we're dealing with people. They bounce around a lot. My layout, well, first they're going to experience this topic, and then we're going to lead them to watch this video, and then we're going to ask them to download this book. But people are going to come in with their own ideas, and they're not going to do that. They're going to bounce around. And so now we have to build out several options of that journey the customer will take, from first discovering who you are to starting to build trust, understand if you can solve their problem, to wanting to talk to somebody, and then going into the sales process. We have to be so flexible within that and kind of create a space, a comfortable space for people to bounce around in before they want to talk to somebody. You're going to get a lot less people if the only thing on your website, the only thing you're offering people is to talk to and get a quote. It'll frustrate people if they can't do their own research first. And everybody wants to do something different for their own research.
I love that. And that's something we have talked a lot about here also is that customer journey. Yeah, it's just no longer A to B to C like it used to be. And they may enter that sequence at all kinds of different levels and all kinds of different places. And yet, wherever they choose to enter at, you got to engage with them in a personal way and, take hold of that, quickly and personally. So I love that and love that, that's where you're leading your clients. I know another topic you talk a lot about is truth in marketing. Seems like a good thing, seems like a common sense thing, but I'm kind of curious, doesn't every company want to be truthful? Are there sometimes companies that don't, or maybe they just inadvertently aren't being truthful? What does that look like, that idea of truth in marketing?
So I think truth in marketing really comes in with authenticity as well. There's a lot of pressure to put out perfection. We are this perfect place. And if you are talking about something, I think a lot of this might be like ESG. We are environmentally friendly, and you put out something, and no, in our world, in manufacturing, you can't be perfect about it. And so, you see pushback with like the Amazons or like the bigger companies. And then people feel discouraged when they actually are doing what they can within their power to, have clean air or provide their people with a good work-life balance. But they can't be perfect. And what we're really seeing is that people are craving authenticity. They don't buy into the mistruths or trying to just smooth everything out. And so telling the truth is being authentic, and it's saying this is as far as we can get right now, and we're doing what we can, and not being perfect. Or if you make a mistake, being honest about that builds trust. It builds authenticity because nobody's perfect. And so it makes you feel more real. And
Mhm.
when you're just trying to kind of weave a story to be perfect around your imperfections, it's inauthentic. People will smell it a mile away. And so I take that pressure off. We tell the truth because most people aren't out here doing bad things. So if we tell the truth of the struggle, if we tell the truth of what's working and when things aren't working, then people start to trust us more. We become more authentic.
So I can see that all over the place now that you've explained it that way. I mean, so many businesses, I don't think they're not trying to be truthful, but they're sugarcoating. They're not necessarily telling the whole truth. They're not being vulnerable with and authentic with their struggles and, what are our next steps? This is, where we got to eventually get. So I love that. You did a great job of that. Is really cool. That's cool. Good stuff. So, what does your typical client look like? Do they usually come to you and you find that they're already pretty progressive in terms of their marketing and you just kind of elevate them further? Or sometimes the clients come to you who are pretty stodgy and stuck in their past and, you got a long way to climb with them.
So I think there's a lot of different types of CMOs and different places in business. I'm not here to convince anybody that they need to do marketing. I need buy-in because otherwise, if people view marketing just as an expense, then we're not really going to get anywhere, and they don't need me because they can just go and do run-of-the-mill advertising and nothing special and invest your dollars there and see it as an expense and grumble about it. That's not a good fit for me. So I work with companies who are already forward thinking. They probably don't know a lot about marketing or newer tools, but they're open to learning about it. They're open to experiencing it. They know that they want to get to the next level. I like to come into companies who, they're past the beginning stage. So they have their business structure figured out. They know how the business operates. And now they're ready to get to the next level. And they know to do that, they need to instill some kind of marketing plan. They may have one person doing marketing. They may have a couple of people who have taken on pieces of it aside of their regular job. And I like to build a marketing program within the company. So I like to help the company develop something that works within their climate, within their environment, with how they want to build, with the people that they already have. I want to elevate that talent and then fill in the holes where they need it and where we need it, depending on, what strategy we've built. No company has to do every marketing that's out there. You may feel the pressure to follow the trends, but we talk about being a trailblazer instead of being a trendsetter. A trailblazer means that you're focused on your goal, you're focused on where you want to go, and that can help you, pull in exactly what you need and then not invest in what's just going to be extra and not going to be helpful. There are a lot of tools that we can use, and it's really dependent on who your customers are, what your resources are, who you already have in your business. So I like to keep things lean. I like to keep things flexible, and I like to keep things really laser focused. And, people need to be ready to go along with those ideas and ready to take some risks. Marketing, I think of it a little bit like a science experiment. So you have a hypothesis that's based on data, based on information, and you test that hypothesis, and then you make decisions from there. So it's not a guaranteed thing, but it's not a magical thing either.
Very interesting. Can you share with us a story or two, perhaps, of a client whose business was really transformed by, having this greater focus on marketing that you can bring them?
Yeah. So I think one of the great examples is I work with a metal manufacturer here, and they had worked for a larger manufacturer, and they broke off. They wanted to make sure that they focused on the quality of life of their employees and of their community. And those were their major pieces. They wanted a place that was fun to go to work to every day, and they wanted to value families. They wanted to make sure their employees could make their kids' sports games. That was important to them. And we were also in a really interesting building climate. So we were worried about catastrophic growth. And so my job, they didn't have any kind of marketing department, but they knew it was important. So my job was to assemble a team for them that could be agile and decide how much we were going to invest so that we could put our stake in the market, gain a good share, but also not overflow them while they're still figuring out their systems. And that was a really fine line to dance. How much do we invest? When do we invest? What do we start with? And so I have, luckily, something I love about being a fractional CMO is that I have a lot of partners that I can pull in depending on what kind of marketing we need. I have an agency that I love and trust, and we work really well together. So for this one, we needed a lot of manpower. We needed it fast, but we needed it lean. We didn't want to hire a graphic designer, hire a website specialist, hire a writer. That's a lot of investment up front when we didn't really need to. We didn't want to go that fast and that hard. So we brought in an agency that has all of those parts, and we can pick and choose. But sometimes, a graphic designer at an agency doesn't match the company that we're working with. So I have another graphic designer that I can pull in so we can make things perfect. Or, maybe they can do something faster. So while I'm working with this company, I'm kind of like assembling our dream team. There's someone on their staff who has studied marketing, was really interested in it. And so I said, okay, come into this team with the company. We figured out part-time, you can take on these responsibilities. I'll help guide you through. I also have a business manager that I work with who really knows like social media and all of these pieces. So I can pair them together and help grow people within that team. So we can be really flexible. So it's all about, what do we need? What's the foundation? The first thing we did was create a brand. They already had a logo that they liked, but we created a brand around their values so that we can pick and choose what we want to do. We also really narrowed down who the customer was. So within our region here, you work with homeowners, you work with architects, you work with contractors, the whole gamut. And we decided to focus on contractors because there were 4 owners. They had so much experience. They can do custom metalwork, metal manufacturing. They have a whole custom trim shop because that's what they knew really well. They'd all been contractors. So we decided we're going to focus on contractors. That's the way the business works the best. It's less time. We speak their language. So that means that all of our writing, we don't do Pinterest writing. One of the ways that we've decided to just kind of sustainably grow is to focus on SEO. And so I have an agency working with them. They have a writer, and we together come up with the keywords that make sense for our audience and that are going to get us the biggest bang for our buck in Google. And then the 4 owners, they have all the knowledge. So I set up an interview, and I'm kind of going back and forth. I know what the writer needs. I know what I need to prompt the guys to say or to get them talking. And when things start to, there's a big gap between a writer who has no building experience and then these guys with, to combine, they have like more than 60 years of experience. And so I'm that bridge. I make sure that we get exactly the information that we need, that everybody needs. And then we have these blogs that are really high quality. They're not beginner blogs. It doesn't sound like, it's coming from HGTV. So they're dual purpose. That is one of the highest driver of traffic to our website is Google search, is organic traffic. And these blogs are part of it and are a big part of it. And they're high quality. And then the guys can use them in their sales, right? So they're talking to somebody has a question. Oh, here, let me send you to this blog. People could come to our website. They can peruse the resources, find something that's actually helpful for them. That builds trust. So everything that we do has more than one purpose. And we're not just going to do something to do it. We're going to make it the best that we can so that it's valuable. And I think that's the biggest difference. And that's something that I bring in because as a fractional CMO, I'm very discerning. We're not just going to do the baseline to do it. Anything that we're going to do, we're going to do it really well. If we're not, there's a particular reason why we're not. So I think that's one of the best things. And we've seen 7-figure growth over the past few years, and it's been steady, and they're maintaining their quality of life. They're maintaining the ability to go on vacations, show up for family, show up for friends, spend time in the outdoors. They're maintaining all of it.
That's good stuff. And I want to go back to something you said earlier and kind of ties all of this together also is this idea of marketing and sales needing to be lockstep. And, how often have I seen sales teams, marketing produces all this great stuff and sales teams later are like, oh, I didn't know we had that. Why didn't you tell me about that? And so that, communication and that ability to be able to have a sales team that says, oh yeah, they did a blog post on that. I need to send that to my client is really good stuff. So I'm kind of curious, are there any trends you're seeing right now that one way or another a company should be having on their radar to impact their marketing?
I mean, everybody's got to be looking at AI and with a thoughtful lens, but I think it's really important to see how that's going to change, how it can make things easier for you, but how maybe your competitors are going to be using it. And that's even things like having an advanced chatbot on your website. If you have a chatbot that actually helps somebody versus somebody who doesn't, that can help get people into your pipeline faster. So looking around, seeing what's available, staying on top of things, but keeping in mind your customer, what do they need? Not getting too involved in the trends just because they're interesting to you. It's going back to that foundation. It's like, you don't want to add just a bag of Funyuns to your mix without really thinking, does it go with the meal? Does it go with what we're trying to do? It's the same thing with marketing. You don't want to just add something because it's trendy.
Sure. Makes a lot of sense. But I love that having your eye on AI also. And yeah, I agree. I think every company needs to. I mean, and chatbots are a great use of that, I think. I mean, you don't want to have a consumer that's coming to you looking for butterscotch and you just keep telling them about lemons or something. So good stuff. Well, Katie, this has been a great time talking to you. We're kind of close to wrapping up what we call the business end of things. Is there anything we haven't covered yet today that you wanted to be sure to share with our audience?
I think the idea of when you should hire a fractional CMO, I think a lot of companies, there's such a big gap between, you have some marketing and then you have this leadership. And I think it's important for companies to know that you can bring in somebody. Sometimes I'll just come into a company for 2 months and we create a strategy that they can execute themselves. And then they have their path forward. And that can give you a competitive advantage. So you don't have to be making, $20 billion to hire somebody. You can always look into having just a little bit of help and hiring fractional, even for everything, you can have a fractional CFO, you can hire a sales director for advice. But I think when companies are in that transition from that like smaller side of medium, and it's such a big jump to the next step, if you need guidance in any part of your company, you can find somebody who can come in and provide that for you so that your company can move forward without having to invest in a full-time staff member.
Well, good stuff. And certainly they would be very wise to seek out Katie Smith and Wildpath Consulting. And we're going to put all your information in the show notes, and we're going to ask you for that here in a little bit as well. But before we do close out, I have to ask you if you're willing to participate in something we call rapid fire. So these are just some simple questions. Some are silly, some are more serious, that we like to ask our guests and see what your response is. You up to it?
Oh yeah, I love these.
Cool. Well, we will alternate. Would you like to ask the first one, Ryan?
Sure, I would love to. Question number 1. What is a product or service that you've recently acquired that was a real game changer for you?
I love, speaking of AI, Otter AI. I just have it running when I'm having meetings. I get so into the meetings that sometimes I forget to take notes, and Otter is just transcribing it for me, and then it can pick out the highlights, and it just makes everything easy for me so I can just be in the moment and then not forget anything later on.
I love it. I think I saw the other day where Zoom has something like that now too. They just came out with where they will actually, create a summary as you're talking type thing. So cool stuff. Second question. What did the first grade Katie hope to be when she grew up?
I wanted to be a professional horseback rider.
Oh, well, you get to do some of that. So that's cool.
Like the ones that race?
I was thinking jumping, the ones that jump.
Oh, jumping.
But I guess I was a professional horseback rider for a little bit.
Yeah, just in a little bit different of a form.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that's the professional horseback rider is a way that a lot of people make a living, but some of them do out there. So that's cool.
Yeah.
All right. Question number 3. What non-family person in your life have you had the longest friendship with?
I think it's my friend Whitney. So I did a stint as working in a rock climbing shop. I was a rock climber, and she walked into the shop and we became instant friends, and we're still friends to this day. And we've been friends for over 20 years.
That's awesome. Cool.
Nice.
I always think that's a fun question to ask because it's something you don't often think about. But yeah, I think it's a fun question. Okay, this next one. Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
That's a pretty common response.
Yeah.
That's the
like
right
cats.
answer.
You like
right.
cats, but dogs are better.
Dogs are better. I foster dogs still.
That's right. You do the dog
sitting.
sitting.
So.
Okay, question number 5. Do you prefer circus clowns or mimes?
Ooh, I think maybe circus clowns because you can hear them coming.
Well, that's interesting. Have you seen these videos of this mime at SeaWorld?
Yes.
I think it is. Yeah. He's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Sometimes. Okay. Next question. What is your favorite meal?
I, being in Montana, I'm a big fan of regenerative agriculture, and I have a couple of meat subscriptions from local ranches. So I love to have a nice steak from one of our local ranches and just a nice, local salad. So I love to have a local meal.
That's awesome. I love going into new towns and, of course, you're eating at restaurants. I'm always looking at farm to table places and places that source locally and all that type of stuff. So good stuff.
Yeah.
Question number 7. Would you rather have the ability to see 10 minutes into the future or 150 years into the future?
10 minutes.
That's interesting. I think that's probably more useful than seeing 150 years. Probably my curiosity would get me on the 150 years thing, but 10 minutes would certainly be a heck of a lot more useful.
I feel like you'd have no context in the 150 years, and it would just be so anxiety producing.
You'd be lost. Yeah.
That's true. It's true. Well, Katie, thank you again. For folks who do want to get in touch with you or learn more about Wildpath Consulting, tell us some ways they can do that.
Sure. So you can visit my website, which is followthewildpath.com. And I really like to hang out on LinkedIn, so you can find me there. But my name is Katie Smith, and there are millions of us. So you have to search Katie Smith, Wildpath Consulting, and then you can find me.
Good stuff. Well, we will put that in the show notes as well. So thank you again. This has been great. I know you got your challenge word in, Katie, which was...
Funyuns.
Onions. Good job. I worked mine in, which was butterscotch, and Ryan got his as well there at the end.
Circus clown.
Good job. I kept thinking, has he worked in Circus Clown yet? Yeah, you got her in there. Good job. Well, thank you again, Katie. This has been a blast and very informative, and I hope very much that our guests check it out and learn more about Wildpath Consulting and maybe bring you into their business to help them out.
Thank you all so much.
And thank you to our audience for tuning into this very special episode of Construction Disruption with Katie Smith of Wildpath Consulting. Please watch for future episodes of our podcast. We always have great guests. Don't forget to leave a review on Apple Podcasts or YouTube. Until the next time we're together, though, keep on disrupting, keep on challenging, keep on looking for better ways of doing things. And don't forget to have a positive impact on everyone that you encounter. Make them smile and encourage them. So God bless and take care. This is Isaiah Industries signing off until the next episode of Construction Disruption.
This podcast is produced by Isaiah Industries, manufacturer of specialty metal roofing and other building products.